بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Now, as a benefit to that particular portion or that particular point that's being made, the Imam Ibn al-Qayyim, he stated some categories of Tawhid: at-Tawhid al-Ilmi, al-Khabari, and at-Tawhid al-Iradi wal-Talabi. What's important to understand from this is that in the past, some of the A'imma, some of the Imams of the Salaf, they didn't divide Tawheed into three types. They actually divided it into two types. That being one, at-Tawheed Tawheed al-Ma'rifah wal-Ithbat being the first, and that is what was intended by al-Ilmi wal-Khabari. Al-Ilmi al-Khabari is al-Ma'rifah wal-Ithbat. The second being Tawheed al-Qasd wal-Talib, and that was the intent of when the Imam said at-Tawheed al-Iradi wal-Talabi. This particular type, at-Tawheed or Tawheed al-Qasd wal-Talib, it is in reality Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah. It is Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah. That is what is intended by this particular category. As for Tawheed al-Ma'rifah wal-Ithbat, then this was Tawheed al-Ruboobiyyah and Tawheed al-Asmaa wa Sifaat being considered to be one category. However, the scholars that came after them, they divided the categories into three in order to increase in making this subject matter easier for the believers to understand. So they broke this category, Tawheed al-Ma'rifah wal-Ithbat, into two categories: Ruboobiyyah and al-Asmaa wa Sifaat. 2:30. How much time do I have to go through that? And so this is why you find the majority of the scholars, or the scholars today, when they deal with the categories of Tawheed, they mention three. Now, to simplify this matter so that it is understood, I like to go through the Islamic technical definition of al-Asmaa wa Sifat and al-Ruboobiyyah, so that it is understood what they exactly are and how they differentiate from the two. Tawheed al-Asmaa wa Sifat, the Islamic technical definition is إفراد الله بما سمى به نفسه ووصف به نفسه في كتابه أو على لسان رسوله نفيا وإثباتا. It is to single out Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala as it relates to that which He has dubbed Himself or titled Himself with, or that which He has described Himself with within His book or upon the tongue of His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this is as it relates to negation and affirmation. Whatever He negated from Himself, or that which He affirmed for Himself. That which He affirms for Himself. Now, how do we benefit from this particular definition? This particular category. This category is very important for the believer because it is this category that gives us a better understanding of Him to whom which we direct our acts of worship. we direct our acts of worship. And for the person that doesn't know Allah, then it is very hard for that person to be sincere in obeying Allah. For this reason, Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala says, إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاءِ. He states that those that possess knowledge from amongst Allah's servants, it is only them that truly fear Him. It is only them that truly fear Him. And this is understandable if we break things down in layman's terms. Like, for example, if you were to go to a region of the earth and you go to a tribe where people were unfamiliar with, for instance, a 9mm hand pistol or any type of gun for that matter. If you were to point it at this type of individual, they don't know the type of damage this weapon can cause. So they have no fear of you pointing that weapon at them. They don't know to duck and run and hide behind something and shield themselves or shelter themselves from the devastation that this tool can cause. Consequently, they may end up being victims of its harm. Well, similarly, this is the example of the person that doesn't really know Allah. Who doesn't really know Allah. He or she is not going to fear Allah by implementing what Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala has commanded and staying away from that which Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala has prohibited. They're not going to do that. They don't understand the one to whom which they worship. That's how we benefit from this particular type of Tawhid. This is why it was broken down into its, from the wisdoms of why it was broken down into a single category so that the believer could better understand who it is to whom which they worship. The other category, which is well known, Tawhid Ruboobiyyah, and what is intended by it, the Islamic technical definition, huwa ifradullah bi af'alihi. It is to single out Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala alone as it relates to His actions. But it is specific to the actions that are directly related and or constitute lordship. That constitute lordship. Thus, belief in the Ruboobiyyah of Allah cannot be complete without belief in four affairs. Without belief in four affairs. The first affair, belief that Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala is the creator of everything. And when I say the creator of everything, meaning He is the only one that truly creates in the sense of the word of creation, meaning He brings into existence that which was non-existent without copying it from something else. Human beings, the term could be used for human beings to create too, but in reality, human beings don't really create in the sense of what I just stated. On the contrary, human beings take from I have one in the refrigerator already. Human beings take from what is already in the creation and they transform it into something else. They transform it into something else, like wood to paper, for instance. Wood to paper. That's an example. Anyway, that's the first thing that one has to believe in order to actualize belief in the Ruboobiyyah of Allah. The second is Al-Mulk, and that is that Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala is the dominion, is the sovereignty. He has sovereignty over everything. He is the possessor of everything that we find within the universe, without exception. Without exception. Third, Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala is the one that provides Meaning, when I say provide, meaning from a provision perspective, that he is the one that provides for everyone and everything within this creation, bestows his provisions upon whomever he wills. That's the third thing. The fourth, at-tadbir, that Allah is the one that regulates and manages the affairs of the universe. Meaning, no leaf falls from a tree without his permission. And this is where the contention with the Muslims and the fraudulent belief of the Christians comes into play when they claim that Allah died for 3 days. Because if Allah was dead for 3 days, then who managed and regulated the universe at that time? At that time. Nothing occurs within this creation except that it occurs by way of the command of Allah, that He is regulating and managing the affairs of this universe. Anyway, I'm going to cut short this introduction because I want to get into the actual ayah. So it's 2:40 now. So we're going to take a break to 2:50. And we're going to actually go into the ayah at this point. And this is very important. Those points that I brought up are very important. All of the Quran is Tawhid. This ayah is pertaining to Tawhid. And it's pertaining to one of those aspects, or from one of those perspectives that Ibn al-Qayyim mentioned. And Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala knows best. Now. I think I was prepared. Sometimes I do that.
Allah knows best.